Now, oh gosh, it's the Macarena. If you know the moves, feel free to get at it. I have a dodgy hip, so I can't, unfortunately. But if you know the moves, bust them out. Feel free to do so. A couple of little things around housekeeping. The first 3 rows on those blue mats on the floor are 18 plus. It's just a safety thing to make sure that everybody's safe, because obviously if the players come off the track, they come off that track pretty hard. There are 3 fire exits in this building, one up the back in Tinytown, one off to my left, and one off out there. If anything happens, you will find that the awesome Richter people will help you out and make sure that you get to where you need to be. We also have Wellington Free Ambulance here. Now, if I remember rightly, I got slipped a sheet of paper, and if I remember rightly, it's Rambo Ambo, and Band Aid, who are here with us this evening from Wellington Free. So if you're not feeling so great, go and see them. Any alcoholic beverages, as per usual in the real world, for R18 only, and you got to have your ID. And none of those beverages are supposed to go out the front. Be a tidy Kiwi, tidy up after yourself, and those green bags are there for recycling. Alrighty, if our awesome referees are good to go. That's all right.
That's helping on the bar.
Yeah, it's all good. Alrighty, it looks like our awesome skating officials are ready to rock and roll. Don't forget, folks, you got to catch them all. Our skating officials this evening: Invader Sin, Malpractice, Greta Growlia, Quadfather, Paddy Wacker, Crazy Crabs, and No Skates. And making sure that all the paperwork is officially official, we have our non-skating officials: Scathing Grace, Dax X McKenna, Kicked in the Jewels, Dr. Reva Song, Cardinal Payne, Veruca Salt, and Feisty Beaver. Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for our awesome officials.
Alrighty, folks. So first out, we have Brutal Pageant. 202, Swiper. 26, Share Trouble. 29, Harmacist. 314, Number Cruncher. 412, Clear the Dicks. 42, Filthy. 44, Sneaky Bee. 5, Suffragette. 6-8, Carabanga. 7-9, Pitbull, Precious Pitbull. And 202, Swiper. And benching Brutal Pageant tonight, we've got Buffalo Kill, Chemical Warfare, and Alakazam.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, Joining us at this time is Comic Slams. Make some noise, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, Comic Slams, the defending champions. That trophy held above number 666 Slayer. That's what it's all about. Skating out tonight for Comic Slams, 101 Tough Bickies. 108, she's hard to find because she's a Loch Jess monster. 109, Sting. Number 12, Splinter. Number 1, RE, she might be from the Ivory Coast, Gale Force. Number 2, Boo-hoo. Number 33, Feral Bueller. 420, Furious George. Your captain this evening for Comic Slams, number 58, May Mame. And we've already met Princess Slayer, number 81, Raven Mad. And finally, Grumpy Wendy in at 99. And holding it down on the bench for the slams this evening is Sneaks Past Ya. And we wonder at that woman, Lucy Flawless. Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, settle in, and just while everybody's setting up for their first jams, it's a really good time to shout out our sponsors and friends here at Richter City. Massive shout out to Garage Project. Massive shout out to Garage Project, keeping us well lubricated here this evening. Also Tiaro, Physio and Pilates, keeping us moving all the time. Aotearoa, skating along, Kamakola, for those of you that don't necessarily feel like Garage Project. Jam here, Form Massage Therapy, Cake It Forward, Hataitai Osteopaths, Aiko, Thunderpants, and Rich Coffee. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, that if you are thirsty, head on down to Tiny Town and avail yourself of one of the forms of beverages that are down there. Adult, realistically, soda's still adult beverages, right? Yeah, realistically. All right, both teams ready to roll. And that looks like Princess Slayer 666 jamming.
Emily Blunt.
Ooh. Slayer though finds a line, finds a small gap through the inside, out in front as lead jammer. Slayer again finds all the gaps, cuts through, and calls off the jam. Just as well, because Suffragette had gotten the star pass.
All right, this time we have Splint Her up for Comic Slams up against Filthy from Brutal Pageant. And we've got lead out with Splint Her.
Making life incredibly difficult for Filthy. Trying to find that gap and still get through.
Bit of a tumble on the apex.
Both packs still moving. And Splint Her calling off the jam. Wow, how was I supposed to know
You know what?
who the Jammers are?
It's hard to tell, really,
I
isn't
know,
it?
it's terrible.
So this time around, it looks like we've got Furious George up for Comic Slams versus Enemy Blunt of Brutal Pageant.
Both of these packs just absolutely making life so difficult. A lovely little nudge from Gale Force there.
But some great track awareness by Enemy Blunt.
However, Furious George, no.
So Enemy Blunt there passed all of the hips first, which is why she managed to get lead jammer even though she got stuck in the pack. This meant that she got to call it off. Thanks.
Now, don't forget, there is awesome people out there who are selling raffle tickets.
Looks like we got Ruth dancing around by the bathrooms here.
And that's not because she needs to go to the bathroom. That is because she is selling raffle tickets. Now, they're 1 for $2 or 3 for $5.
What are the prizes tonight?
The prizes are a bag of awesomeness from Ico.
Just what we want.
Oh, absolutely. And then there are 2 other bags, and they are both filled with the most amazing coffee.
Yum.
And to supplement that coffee, there is also the opportunity to get your hands on some of the Richter City Roller Derby merch that if you're unlucky enough to not win one of those prizes, you could go down to Tiny Town and purchase some of it for yourself.
It's a pretty good deal, really, isn't it?
Fantastic. All the way around, I reckon.
So try win it and then just buy it if you don't.
And realistically, at the end of the day, right, all of the money that's raised from the merch sales, the raffle sales, the sausage sizzle, the bake sale, and the sandwich machine, all of that money goes towards helping out Richter City Roller Derby players to travel.
Yep. And just to play games in general, like our home season.
Which is fantastic. And realistically, if we want to see more roller derby, we need to support it. And given the match that we just seen, we need to make sure that there is roller derby for all those awesome little people who played their hearts out earlier today.
All right, looks like we're back into it with Tough Vicky's out for lead jammer.
Just
with Claire the Dex coming quite close behind.
almost effortlessly through the inside. Just a casual little hop, step, and a jump from Bickies.
And a couple of quick points for slams, but also matched by Brutal Pageant.
Princess Leia lining up for Comic Slams against Emily Blunt for Brutal Pageant. However, it is Princess Slayer out in front as lead jammer, finds that gap on the inside, takes advantage of it beautifully. Emily Blunt, though, not to be left behind. Beautiful work by Princess Slayer.
But match points again this time. Oh, no, actually.
+1.
Brutal Pageant taking out the higher mark there. Some good sneaky points.
Okay.
All right, we're back up again with Filthy to jam for Brutal Pageant, but Split Her takes lead.
I don't know. Oh, lovely work. Absolutely lovely work by Splinter. nice and low, right through the gap, and moving so quickly when in the clear.
They're not making this easy on Filthy as the jammer trying to get through.
And again, Splinter with a lovely sort of side-to-side motion finds all the gaps. However, poor old Filthy finding life very difficult at the moment.
But finally making out of that back. And doesn't make it through to get any points, but Splinter taking another 2, making that a total of 10 points for that jam. All right, we got Furious George back up against Enemy Blunt. And Enemy Blunt making it look easy.
Furious George still trying to find that gap, held up by the pivot, Suffragette.
Both of these jammers are fairly new to Richter City, and it's great to see how much they can develop in just a year.
It's awesome it's one of the cool things about this game is that there is a real, there's all sorts of opportunity to grow and develop, not just within the game, but just to become more confident in who you are as a human being.
Oh yeah, there's so many upsides to roller derby.
It's fantastic.
And it's exercise.
Well, yes, and exercise is always good. Yeah, so they say. Allegedly.
All right, we got Claire the Dix out for Brutal Pageant, up against Boo-Hoo. And some great track awareness. Tough Bickies went out of the track, so that meant Claire the Dix could go ahead. And Boo-Hoo calls it as the lead jammer.
All right, Princess Slayer now jamming for Comic Slams.
Enemy Blunt once again up for Brutal Pageant.
However, it is Princess Slayer with some space on the inside who is out in front with that lead jammer status. And again, Slayer through.
And looks like we had a star pass to Suffragette.
And Slayer very wisely calls off the jam. Now, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, that you can head outside and grab yourself a sausage sizzle sausage.
We also have vegetarian and vegan ones out there, which I think people are quite surprised by today.
I know my little monkey who is allergic to egg and dairy really appreciated the fact that there were vegan sausages out there.
We like to cater for those. And I get the feeling there might be vegan cheese for the toasty sandwiches as well.
Oh, that would be absolutely superb. Now, Splinter and Clear the Decks. Splinter out in front with lead jammer status. Clear the Decks finally getting clear of everybody. And Splinter called off the jam.
So from what I've seen so far, we've had a pretty clean game, but we now have our pivot Filthy for Brutal Pageant sitting in the box. This means that Brutal Pageant are starting down with only 3 players on the track.
which will give them a slight advantage.
Yeah.
A slight disadvantage
Yep.
in terms of their overall pack structure. Now, that looks like Enemy Blunt for Pageant and Furious George for Slams. Both jammers finding life very difficult at this point in the game. However, it looks like Furious George is starting to force past, but got put out and recycled back. Enemy Blunt still caught up in the packs. Furious, though,
Out for lead jammer.
finds that gap finally and gets through.
Blunt's still struggling within that pack, though.
Lovely little bit of footwork by George, trying to find that gap. These packs making life so difficult for both of these jammers. Furious George put out, recycled a very long way back.
And Furious George calls it before Filthy comes around with the Jammer Pantheon. Good points protection.
Yeah,
from
very
Comic
good.
Slams going on.
Very good points protection. It's a real, as I said before, there's a real kind of psychological psychological kind of thing with that whole calling off of the jam.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Because, you know, you're just getting there and then they call it off.
It can be very disappointing as a jammer that you don't get points. And it looks like we might have a timeout for Brutal Pageant going on.
Whilst the superheroes who wear their undies on the outside of Comic Slams, standing on the track.
Just hanging out.
Just hanging, having a chat.
So each team gets 3 timeouts per game. They're a minute each, and then they have to come back on. Always fun.
So a timeout is probably a good time for you to take a timeout and head down to Tiny Town and grab yourself a beverage. Either one of the awesome non-alcoholic products from Karma Cola. Now, one of the cool things about Karma Cola is it's all organic, and their recipes combine good things from cola nuts from Sierra Leone with vanilla bean from Sri Lanka, organically grown sugar cane from Maharashtra. Gosh, I hope I got that right, in India. And they use an organic malt extract to flavor and color instead of artificial coloring. So realistically, if you go down there and get one of those drinks, not only are you supporting the idea of, you know, that awesome sustainable farming, you're drinking a bottle of goodness.
Cans of goodness.
Cans of goodness, even. Cans of goodness. So love your body. Go get some Karma Cola.
Alrighty, we got Clear the Decks up for Brutal Pageant. Up against, looks like Tough Bickies for Comic Slams.
Both packs quite mobile at the moment, making life very difficult. Oh, beautiful stepping footwork by Bickies.
Good final dip around Suffragette.
Both of these jammers just so quick.
And only 2 points that time around.
2 points for Slams, but none for Brutal Pageant. All right, Princess Slayer on the jam line for Comic Slams.
Up against Enemy Blunt once again.
And Slayer out in front with that lead jammer status. Oh, no. No. Princess Slayer out in front on her way to the penalty box. Having a wee think about what it was that she did that got her there.
So this is a good chance to rack up some points if possible.
However, Enemy Blunt having a hard time of it getting through that pack. It's fantastic work by Comic Slams, but also some lovely support by that Brutal Pageant pack and getting Enemy Blunt through.
She is now out for lead jammer. This means she gets to dictate how long the jam gets to go on for. Oh, great footwork right there as well.
Stayed up on her toe stops and didn't go out. Slayer now back on the track.
And Blunt through for 4 points then.
And some jammer on jammer action means that Enemy Blunt has to call it off from the floor. Okay.
Looks like we got Suffragette up for a Brutal Pageant this time around, up against Splint Her. And straight through.
Found a beautiful line on the inside while Splinter still held up, finally finds the gap. Oh, beautiful lines by Jet there, just absolutely carving through.
Nice little tap there, sending Splinter flying from Swiper.
Swiper, no swiping. No swiper. Actually, that was a pretty solid swipe. Now, is that Furious George and Clear the Decks? Have I got it right?
Yes, that is correct.
So, Furious George for Comic Slams, Clear the Decks for Brutal Pageant. Furious George, though, beautiful footwork.
Clear the Decks only just getting lead above her.
So close between both of these two jammers as they come around. Pax staying amazingly mobile. Fantastic little bit of roller derby to watch.
They were definitely making that tough on both jammers.
Oh dear. And that looks like Boo-hoo on the jam line for Comic Slams. And Enemy Blunt for Brutal Pageant. Oh, and finds a lovely line on the inside, but doesn't quite manage to get past Bicky's. Enemy Blunt now getting held up by the last few defenders.
And Enemy Blunt through for lead.
However, Boo-hoo having a cry about how hard it is out there.
Looks like Singh gets to take a seat in the penalty box now.
As the jam is called off by Enemy Blunt, which is just as well because Tough Bickies had gotten a star pass. Now, there's probably two of our friends and sponsors here at Richter City that a lot of the skaters will be engaging with on Monday. And we should probably give a shout out to Tiaro Physio and Pilates, but also Form Massage Therapy. They'll probably have lots of customers on Monday, including Princess Slayer, maybe, who's out in front as lead jammer with Suffragette. Both of those packs moving very quickly now. And Slayer calling off the jam. Both packs and both jammers moving so quickly there.
Oh, yes. They definitely like to protect those points, and it only paid off for Slayer getting one.
Still, one's better than none.
Exactly. You can win a game by 1 point.
Or you can lose a game by 1 point.
Alrighty, clear the decks up against Splinter.
Clear the decks, finds a beautiful line on the inside. Only got Bickies to beat.
Tough Bicky's not making that easy on her.
Yeah, Tough Bickies living up to her name.
And clear the decks, calling it from the floor.
Yeah, she always is. She's not stupid. She knows what she can and can't do. Yeah, that's all good. Alrighty, now.
Got Furious George up for Comic Slams this time around, up against Filthy for Brutal Pageant.
Furious George put out, recycled.
Someone's in trouble.
That would
Crowd
be
helping them out there.
that would be Furious George. Sent to the sin bin to think about cutting the track. Filthy now with Mame to beat, and then the rest of the pack catches up. Filthy just working that Comic Slams pack from side to side, opening the gap between the two packs. Some lovely support by that Brutal Pageant pack means that Filthy finally manages to break free.
And that is almost a minute of pushing on the same people trying to break through.
There's a lot of cardio in this game, a lot of cardio. Furious George now, furiously trying to monkey around and get past that Brutal Pageant pack, manages to do so.
And call before any points are made.
Filthy calling it as she's falling. Falling and calling. Very tight scoring first period of the game. Comic Slams 46, Brutal Pageant 27.
It's only a 19-point difference, and you can do that in one jam.
We saw a 32-point jam earlier this evening with the Junior Roller Derby.
That was actually one of the only jams I actually saw tonight, and that was very impressive. 32 to 28. Oh.
Suffragette out in front on her way to the sin bin. Tough Bickies though, by herself. It's a power jam.
Bicky's out for a lead. So because Jet didn't actually get out of the pack before getting her penalty, it means that Bickies was able to pick that up.
Lovely support from the Comic Slams pack there, helping Bickies get through. Creating a bit of space. And again, Comic Slams back up to full strength in the pack now. Trying to find that gap again, Bickies. And Jet now smashes up against a wall of blue. Bickies watching what's going on.
Jet finally being able to make it through the pack. Coming up to get some points and doesn't even get the chance. So it was a 13-0 jam for Comic Slams, trying to make a bit of a lead for themselves.
Just slowly stacking those points. Now don't forget, at halftime of this game, we will be drawing the raffle. So you've got about another 6 minutes to get your hands on some raffle tickets before we draw for the bags of awesomeness. Slayer, clear the decks. And it looks like clear the decks out in front. And Slayer recycled back. Not quite sure what happened there, but the packs are a long way from us. Slayer also finally through. And Dex calls off the jam. All right.
Splitting her out for Comic Slams as lead jammer.
And Enemy Blunt still trying to find a way past.
Taking on Sting, who's dragged her all the way back.
However, Splinter put out, dragged back. Finds some space on the inside on the toe stops, but not a second time. Enemy Blunt still being held up by that Slams pack. And calls off the jam. Now that looks like Suffragette lining up for Brutal Pageant. And I think Furious George for Comic Slams. Both jammers in the packs, but it's Furious George who manages to slip through and find that gap. Jet, though, not to be left behind. Oh, beautiful work by Furious George. Slips through a gap from the middle to the outside and calls off the jam. Ah, yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that looks like Boohoo lining up to jam for Comic Slams. And clear the decks for Brutal Pageant. Both jammers incredibly close together going through the packs, trying to battle to get out in front. Little bit of push and shove between Clear the Decks and Tough Bickies, but it's Dex who ends up out in front with that lead jammer status.
Dex back through for another 4 points on that one.
Boohoo, though, still caught up in the packs, trying to find a space to move through. Dex up on tippy toes with only Bickies to beat. Does it twisting.
Curls. Oh. And Boo finally getting out of the pack with a bit of a tumble.
Dex, though, still has that lead jammer status.
And Dex calling it before Boo can make any points. So that's an 11-point jam for Brutal Pageant.
Closing up the score just a little bit more.
And that's all it takes to kind of make it even.
Which is all good.
All right. Alrighty, Filthy up again for a brutal pageant.
Against Princess Slayer, who manages to...
Bust her way through.
yeah, I was trying to find the proper adjective. I was lost for a sec there. Slayer now again, just finding all the gaps and sliding right through them. However, Filthy making hard work of it. Can't quite do the same. Eventually, though. Slayer again. Finds the gaps, gets out in front. Filthy still held up. Slayer comes back in. Absolutely smashes her way through the brutal pageant pack and calls it off with 20 odd seconds left in this period. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time this evening, we have my favorite of the timeouts. It is the all-seeing eye of Sauron. You watch, tell me I'm wrong. Like, when the symbol goes up, it's like the eye of Sauron, and it's an official review. Sauron. Yeah, Sauron. Yeah, I totally know stuff. Yeah, the eye of Sauron. That's what I said the whole way through. Totally. Absolutely. Eye of Sauron. The big bad guy that was up in the tower that realistically, honestly, why didn't they just fly? I've never understood that. The eagles just show up out of anywhere. And they could have just flown, but no, they got to walk. It could have been like a 30-minute episode of TV or something. You know? Okay. It could have been like a 30-minute episode. Oh, look, here's the ring. Let's all jump on these eagles and fly there. And then as we fly over it, you do like a bombing run and drop it into the volcano.
So what's actually going on is it's an official review.
I know. My stories are more fun.
So this way the skaters can contest something that the refs have either called or haven't called, possibly points that were missed on the scoreboard, and it's just making a clarification. This also actually stops the clock, which means they get a whole nother jam from here.
And by the looks of things, I believe it's Brutal Pageant that have called for this particular official review. As the skaters get some air from our awesome fans who have opened the door for them. I think we all needed that air, didn't we, folks? All right, so whilst they are dealing with these stoppages, it would be an awesome time to head on down to Tiny Town and grab yourself a Garage Project product and show your support for one of our biggest sponsors here at Richter City. Or you could grab yourself a can of goodness and love your body by buying yourself one of the Karma Cola products.
Tasty, tasty drinks.
Now, one of our other friends here at Richter City is one of my personal favorites, and that's Cake It Forward. Now, Cake It Forward do awesome cakes for weddings, birthdays, anniversaries, baby bridal showers, all that sort of good stuff. But the cool thing that I like about Cake It Forward is they donate cakes and profits to Angel Tree, which supports families with a parent in prison. It also supports the Hutt City Women's Refuge and the Perinatal Anxiety and Depression Aotearoa. They also run cake decorating classes. Now, I think if you can buy a cake and have that awesome goodness, which is a slice of cake or a whole cake, I'm not going to judge. Get a whole cake if you want. Who am I to judge? It also supports a whole bunch of other things as well as awesome cake. So, Splinter out in front as lead jammer, while Suffragette is held up in the packs.
And a very fast star pass on to clear the decks.
Splinter and calls it off before Dex can score any points. And now that, ladies and gentlemen, is half time. It means you get a wee break for 15 minutes to go and get yourselves something to eat from Janine outside or one of the sausage sizzles. Now remember, there are vegetarian and vegan options.
really great sports, and you did an awesome game. So we've got some MVP and MVP and MVJ, and one player that we thought did exceptionally well as well. So I'm going to pass the mic to Belladonna, our captain, and she's going to give out the MVPs for Christchurch Living Dead.
Technical difficulties. So the most valuable jammer we gave to Alarm Her. So well done. And the most valuable blocker we gave to Wolfie. And we wanted to give like a prize for overall greatness to Azkazam.
Thank you for inviting us. We had a good game. So our most valuable blocker goes to Rampage. And the most valuable jammer goes to Panda. And another most valuable jammer goes to Rage. And another most valuable blocker goes to T-Bone. So.
No.
Make some noise for these young people. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Slayer. Happy birthday to you. Hip hip. Oh, you guys are awesome. We aim to please. We keep ourselves entertained. Oh, look. Excuse me.
These are rubbish.
Hey?
These are all rubbish knives.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I'm really confused. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, Brutal Pageant currently on 46, Comic Slams currently on 83, as we await the official word from our awesome officials to get underway.
And here we go. We have cleared the decks up for Brutal Pageant once again against Splinter for Comic Slams. Both of these gemmers are convex gemmers, the main two rotation, I would say, which is one of our travel teams.
Oh, and Dex with a beautiful line around the outside like the Trailer Park Girls of old.
Was totally a lie. It's actually a Furious George.
We're just testing to see if
Tried.
everybody's awake out there.
Yeah, exactly. Should have looked for the blue hair.
Dex finds the space. Both of these packs now moving and catching up. George, oh, lovely little managing to get past Suffragette there.
Very drawn out pack.
Oh, Dex with a tiptoe. Tiptoe through the inside and calls it off.
Obviously, Brutal Pageant coming back with a bit of oomph, trying to match scores, I'd say.
Yeah, probably just a bit of a chat and, some Red Bull gives you wings.
Sometimes that's all you need.
Some pre-workout, get you going.
This time it's Splinter for Comic Slams.
Who finds an absolutely beautiful line through the inside.
Up against Enemy Blunt, trying to make her way past Sting now. Not the easiest thing to do either.
No, I've heard that when it comes to blocking, Sting is one of the harder people to get around.
A bit like hitting a brick wall, really.
Managed to never hit many brick walls in my life. Probably just
Definitely
as
give it a
well.
try.
Just for a giggle one day. And Splinter calling it off.
And it looks like that was a 5-point jam for Comic Slams to 0 for Brutal Pageant.
Now, Princess Slayer lining up to jam for Comic Slams. Now, you might not have realized this, but the Skate Punks team that played earlier are all coached by Slayer.
That must have been why she was doing the MVPs before.
Yep. Out in front as lead jammer, but Suffragette not one to be left behind.
Both jammers coming up fast, wanting those points.
And Slayer calling it off.
Bit slippery for Suffragette, taking a stumble.
Fumble.
There's a lot of skating for 1 point for Comic Slams.
Yes, it was, but like we said earlier, games are won and lost on 1 point.
Exactly. We've seen it here before for home season finals.
Yeah, we have. All right, now that looks like clear the decks for Brutal Pageant. And I think Tough Bickies, yes it is, for Comic Slams. Decks though, with a lovely line on the outside again. Bickies, oh, one skate, a little tippy toe, and just yet to beat. Doesn't quite manage it, gets recycled an incredibly long way back. Dex though.
And Becky's making it through.
And the jam is called off. Now, Princess Slayer for, no, that's not Princess Slayer for Comic Slams.
Furious George up for Comic Slams, up against Filthy for Brutal Pageant.
And Filthy put out and recycled a long way back. While Furious George manages to find the gap. Furious George calling it off, and just in time too, as there had been a star pass to Enemy Blunt. Now don't forget, folks, there is all sorts of food available for you at the moment. There is Janine with some chips out the front. There is the sausage sizzle. There is the bake sale. There is the sandwich press.
I can imagine as we're through halftime, they might start packing up soon, so people need to get onto those.
And the bar will close soon too, actually. That's a good point. Jet.
And it looks like Splint Her is out for lead.
Because Jet has been sent to the bin to contemplate some of her recent life choices and decisions.
I was having a talk to somebody earlier, and there's only been about 4 penalties in the first half, so
That's actually really good.
that is very clean for a game
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah. Splinter now finally manages to find a way through.
And that was 4 points for Comic Slams.
And I suppose one of the things about there being very few penalties is that it's meant that the jammers have spent a lot of time on the track one way or another.
Makes it a lot harder to get through with 4 blockers on the track.
I can imagine.
And Splint Her calling it with another 4 points, making that an 8-point jam to 0 for Brutal Pageant.
Yeah, I know. They can't hear each other. Yeah. All right, Princess Slayer lining up for Comic Slams.
And clear the decks out for Brutal Pageant.
Slayer, though, looks like she managed to find the clear space first and out in front as lead jammer. Dex put out and pushed back a long way. Oh, Slayer making it way too easy around the outside.
Some great backward skating there by Clear the Decks on the outside.
Beautiful little piece of footwork to finally get past the packs. And Princess Slayer calls off the jam.
Looks like we got the fight for the pivot line. Everybody sitting there.
And that looks like Tough Bickies for Comic Slams and Enemy Blunt for Brutal Pageant. Bickies, though, lovely bit of footwork on the outside, finds the gaps, but then so did Enemy Blunt. Lovely heavy fall on the outside. May have rattled her head a wee bit. All right. And our awesome Wellington Free people checking in with, make some noise for Enemy Blunt, ladies and gentlemen. Now I believe, is it happy birthday for Wellington Free today as well? So like, how old are you guys now? Like 90?
92?
92?
So we here?
Something like that? So thanks for your awesome work that you guys do. That's one of the things I love about living in Wellington is the Wellington Free Ambulance Service, and the fact that I know that, you know, if I need looked after, I'm not going to get slapped with a massive bill on the back end of it when I'm trying to recover in hospital. That would suck.
That is not ideal.
My mother lives in Dunedin, and that happens to her, and it sucks. It's a very long and involved story, but Mum moved down there. I ended up going down there as well.
And Furious George out for lead jammer, closely followed by Suffragette. Both are coming around fast.
Both of these jammers just so quick. Oh, beautiful work by Furious George. Lovely little apex jump. Beautiful placement of the packs to make that jump.
Although no points were scored, sadly.
Oh, oof.
Nice try, though. It looked amazing.
Called it off a little bit too soon, perhaps. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as Clear the Decks is out in front with that lead jammer status, coming back around now on the outside, beautiful toe stop work, slowing, twisting, and finding her way again past the packs. While Comic Slams not finding this easy at all.
Great toe stop and awareness by Clear the Decks there on the inside apex.
Managed to stop herself from going out and being recycled back. And again.
And both jammers through for some points around then.
Boo-hoo found a line on the inside. Both jammers going through the packs at almost the same time. Dex calling off the jam. Now, there comes a time in every game of roller derby where the bar must shut. And that time, ladies and gentlemen, is in about 10 minutes. So if you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, I could use a beverage, an adult one at that, it might pay to head on down to Tiny Town, grab yourself a garage project, and enjoy the rest of this fantastic game of roller derby. Princess Slayer, beautiful bit of work. Up and down. And Karabunga jamming for Brutal Pageant. not finding it easy, but manages to find the gap. Slayer now. Beautiful footwork by Princess Slayer. Finds the gap.
Karabunga is one of our friends from Remataka Roller Derby who comes and joins us for our home season.
Fantastic.
Obviously some fans in the crowd.
Both jammers caught up in the packs, but it's Slayer again. After a last little nudge from Jet.
Oh, not even touched that time round.
Karabunga also through. Oh, beautiful. And Princess Slayer calls off the jam. 12-point jam for Slams, 4 points for Page. Right. So, Jet lining up for Brutal Pageant.
Looks like we got Splinter back on the jam line as well. Tough Vicky's doing a little shuffle at the end, just before the whistle.
Oh, lovely saving of her balance by Jet. Tiptoeing right up along the line, but no.
Splinter actually coming through as lead jammer.
Yeah, because Jet got in trouble and she's in the bin. I believe it was for cutting. Not quite sure when. Might have been what I was talking about, how awesome her footwork was. She may have actually cut. Oh, well.
It happens.
Such is life. However, what that means is that Splinter is out there all by herself in a power jam.
Sneaky B taking a seat in the penalty box.
Few penalties starting to creep into the second period.
And looks like Suffragette is through on her initial pass.
Splinter now calling it off. Now, I think, is that Furious George on the jam line?
It is indeed, up against Claire the Dex for Brutal Pageant.
Who's in the bin at the moment?
Looks like Sneaky B is having a seat right now.
Just
Think about what
contemplating
she's
life. Beautiful work by the Comic Slams pack to let Furious George get out in front as the lead jammer, and Dex still held up. Finally manages to break free though.
Bit of a push from Pharaoh trying to get George out of the pack.
Yeah, so how about that awkward silence? Oh, wait. There we go. It's not so awkward anymore because it's a timeout. There we go. All of a sudden, it's not awkward. I was trying to work out what was going on.
We all know what's going on. Timeout for Comic Slams.
Is that because they want to get down to the bar before it closes?
Hopefully not, but everybody else can.
Yep, you should be.
Go and
getting
see our
down.
friend Dan down there.
Hey, now, I just want to take a little second here to just quickly shout out all of our awesome officials here, because none of what happens in these games would be able to happen the way it's supposed to without the support from our officials. So we've got Invader Sin, Malpractice, Greta Growlia, Quadfather, Paddy Wacker, Crazy Crabs, No Skates as our skating officials for the evening, and our non-skating officials for the evening are Scathing Grace, Dax Ex Machina, Kicked in the Jewels, Lens Flare, Dippy, Dr. Reva Song, Cardinal Pain, Veruca Salt, and Maple Hurricane. Now, as I say, our officials, whether they're skating or non-skating, are awesome, and we really appreciate the work that you folks do. Yeah, I do too. was. Yeah, well, there's salty. I can see salty, and she's not on the list.
She was on the first list.
Was she?
Oh,
I don't know.
All right, Carabunga is up for Brutal Pageant, and Tough Vicky's out for Comic Slams, just against Suffragette and Sheer Trouble.
Oh, well, and unfortunately for Bickies, just as she was beating those last couple of Pageant defenders, she got bumped out and recycled an awfully, awfully long way back.
And Carabunga out for Lee Gemma. I think Becky's looking like she wants a bit of help.
But Carabunga through again.
So if you've noticed that the jammer sometimes takes off their star, it means that they can pass it over to their pivot, and that's what we call a star pass.
Tell you what, that action down the bottom looks fast and furious. There are a lot of bodies hitting the floor one way or another, and neither jammer has been able to get free.
Well, it looks like we've now had a successful star pass with Boohoo making it out of the pack. Carabunga right behind her after already getting 8 points.
Both of these packs, though, quite mobile. Resetting, though.
But Sting not letting Carabunga pass.
And recycling Carabunga back a good distance. A little bit of one-on-one play between Sting and Carabunga.
And Sting off to the penalty box now.
Naughty Sting.
Oh, and just skate right through that time, Carabunga. And that was a 2-minute jam.
12 points to 3. Brutal Pageant scoring 12 in that jam, and Comic Slams with 3. Just a reminder, folks, the bar will be closing fairly shortly. So if you are sitting there contemplating a beverage, sooner rather than later would probably be a good idea. Princess Slayer for Comic Slams out in front as the lead jammer. However, Suffragette not one to be left behind. And Slayer calls off the jam.
All right, clear the decks out for Brutal Pageant once again, and Splint her for Comic Slams.
And some lovely footwork from Clear the Decks as she finds her way through the pack. And unfortunately, Splinter off to the bin to contemplate what it was she did wrong.
Becky's doing a nice little tap out on Clear the Decks, and Sting again.
Which means that, in essence, Comic Slams playing an awful lot of defense at this point, trying to contain Clear the Decks. Oh dear. Clear the Decks.
We're doing a bit of a swap out.
Clear the Decks was sent to the bin. Which means that Splinter will rejoin the game and try and find a way through that brutal Pageant defense.
And out she goes.
That's all right. It's fine.
So, fun fact, if both jammers have gone to the bin, the second jammer sits as long as the first jammer did. As soon as the second jammer sits down, the first jammer gets to leave, and then, sit for the same amount of time.
So if one was there for 10 seconds, the other one's there for like 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's a bit of fairness, really, in the game, unless you got multiple things. So, also, because both of the jammers went to the bin, it's now a 2-minute jam. So they have to continue to go until the whistle.
Splinter, looks like off to the bin, which means that Brutal Pageant will have the advantage coming into this next jam. So by the looks of things,
Slam's going to be a bit light.
Slams is going to be a little bit light on the track for a little bit. No pressure. Because they got 2 in the bin, thinking about what they did, learning from their mistakes. That's what life's all about, learning from your mistakes.
Exactly. So we're taking a bit of a time out here for Brutal Pageant.
Now, just while we're taking this time out, I think it would be a really good opportunity to give a shout out to our sponsors and friends again here at Richter City. They are Garage Project, Tiaro Physio and Pilates, Aotearoa, Karma Cola, Jam Hair, Form Massage Therapy, Cake It Forward, Hataitai Osteo, Aiko, Thunderpants, and Rich Coffee. Now, if you are thinking about getting involved with Richter City, there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. We are always looking for more skating and non-skating officials. They are the abs. They help us in so many different ways with what we need to get done here. So if you are interested in joining Richter City as an official, you can email officials.richtercity@gmail.com and make an inquiry, or you can just find Richter City on Facebook, send them a message, and they will put you in touch with all of the right people. Somehow it's Aladdin. Oh no, it's Beauty and the Beast. Oh dear Lord. Let me change the music.
This isn't Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, it's not, I don't know. I hate Disney.
This is Aladdin.
I hate Disney. Hey?
All right, looks like we're getting back into this after a bit of clarifying of things.
So I think it's Splinter jamming for Comic Slams from the bin.
Suffragette up for Brutal Pageant and out for Lead Jammer, making it a bit easy with only 3 blockers on the track for Comic Slams. This is a good way for them to make up a couple of points.
Yeah, and with the scoreline at it is where it is versus the time, it's oddly timely for Brutal Pageant.
Suffragette through for 4 points. Ooh, and Jet trying to get a bit of an apex jump and not quite scoring.
However, it looked like she managed to land on somebody's shoulder. Splinter through.
Straight through the pack and in for 4 points. Suffragette just staying in bounds and getting through again.
And twirling and calling off the jam.
So it looks like it was a 12-point jam for Brutal Pageant with only 4 for Comic Slams that time around.
All right, Princess Slayer jamming for Comic Slams against Clear the Decks. Both of the jammers a long way from the packs. Little bit of side to side. Slayer trying to find that gap. Dex, though, found that gap first.
In for lead.
Although Slayer not one to be left behind.
Ooh, and it looks like only 1 point scored by Brutal Pageant there, and none for Princess Slayer for Comic Slams. Very tight.
Very, very tight play by both of these teams this evening.
So this is actually the last game of the season in Wellington that we have on.
So when does the season pick back up next year?
I'm not exactly sure. Probably around February, I can imagine there would be the first game. I heard rumors earlier today about a February event, so I would say keep an eye out on our Facebook for that.
Yeah, I too have heard some rumours about an event in February as well.
I cannot guarantee anything though.
No, I couldn't either because, you know, who knows? Who knows?
Everything changes so fast.
That it does.
Our All-Stars do have a game up in Auckland on the 31st of November, the 30th of November.
Furious George, lead jammer, Filthy, having a hard time of it. Side to side goes Furious George, finds the gap, gets through. Lovely lean on the inside. I think I'd trip myself up if I tried to skate like that. That's fantastic. And Furious George calling it off.
And it looks like that'll be a 6-point jam for Comic Slams.
That it is. It's almost like you've done this before.
I'm just watching the refs. Alrighty, looks like Suffragette is up for Brutal Pageant, up against
Splinter. Jet, though, out in front with ease.
But Splinter putting that pressure on.
Both of these jammers just so quick, so agile on their feet.
And it looks like no points were scored.
So that is Clear the Decks jamming for Comic Slam. Sorry, Brutal Pageant. My mistake. Clear the Decks for Brutal Pageant and Furious George for Comic Slams. And it's Furious George who finds the gaps first and gets out in front as lead jammer. Dex also found some space on the inside.
And called before Brutal Pageant can make any points. All right, looks like we got Tough Becky's up for Comic Slams up
And
against Carabunga.
Carabunga, dude.
Becky's making that look easy, getting a lead.
Carabunga, though, found a similar line. Becky's now back around to the packs. Met by that brutal wall. Second time I've dropped that one. That's all right.
Looks like we're down to the last 3 minutes of the home season final.
Now that looks like Princess Slayer lining up to jam for Comic Slams. And
Suffragette by the looks of it for Brutal Pageant.
Jet trying to find the line on the inside. Slayer finds it first though.
And Jet right on her tail.
So quick, both of these. And the packs, so mobile.
Oh, and it looks like Suffragette might have come through. Yes, getting the whole 4 points versus Slayer's 2.
Lovely work by Suffragette.
It is always nice when you can steal some points.
Clear the decks for Brutal Pageant.
All right, looks like I clear the decks up against Splint Her on Comic Slams.
Fury, or is it?
Boo not making that easy on clear the decks as she gets hit right out. And Filthy taking a bit of a stumble as Splint Her takes lead.
Clear the decks though. Finally finds the gaps, gets through.
Splint Her trying to take on clear the decks herself.
Not quite managing it, but gets still getting caught up in those in the pack.
Splint Her getting a bit of a head hit there.
That was a 4-4 jam. As we move into what could potentially be the last jam of the game. Suffragette jamming for Brutal Pageant.
And you got Furious George out for Comic Slams.
Make some noise for both of these teams, ladies and gentlemen.
It's been a great game. Yeah. All right, and we're off.
Both jammers just working the pack side to side, trying to find the gap.
And, oh, no, Princess Leia not letting Jet out.
However,
Furious George is out for lead.
and Suffragette though, both of these packs moving very quickly, almost as quickly as the jammers.
All of the point protection right now.
Furious George finds the gap.
And
Fantastic
Suffragette's
work.
totally behind. And it looks like Comic Slams has called it for the win.
Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for both of these teams to start with. Fantastic work by both teams here tonight. Our unofficial score, however, at this point, oh wait, no, it's our final score. Our final score at this point, Brutal Pageant, 124. But your winners for the second year in a row, your home team finals champions. Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for Comic Slams.